Hi, my name is Monique Eric and I'm a second violinist with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. Today I will be discussing important tips for how to best prepare for an orchestral audition. Auditioning is a skill that takes practice and patience, but there are a few tips that can help you prepare to the best of your ability and impress a panel. The first step you should take before even practicing the excerpt is to listen to a few different recordings of the piece, preferably with a reputable orchestra and conductor, and then pick one that you particularly like. Find where in the piece the excerpt is, and then put the minute and second marking of where in the piece it is, like for example 15 minutes and 10 seconds, so that you can find it quickly for future reference when you are practicing. Next, try to get a hold of a copy of the score and see what exactly is happening while during the excerpt. Is it an accompanying figure or is it melody? Is your part with anyone else, and do you take over from another instrument? For example, today I will be looking with Sarah at the second variation of Elgar's Enigma variation. It's important to know that these semi-quaver passages, Sarah, could you please demonstrate the first two bars of the piece? This passage always gets passed over to another section in the orchestra, so I will now play the second violin part after Sarah plays the first. Etc. It's useful to know the context of the excerpt, as the panel will be imagining the rest of the orchestra while you play your excerpt to see if you understand how your part fits in. As obvious as it sounds, always pay careful attention to the time signatures, key signatures, and any musical instructions on your excerpt. Next, it's good to work out a metronome marking that particular recording is roughly at, and decide what tempo you would like to take the excerpt at. I write that tempo marking on the page of my excerpt, so when I go to practice it, I always have a goal of how fast I want to take it. For this excerpt, I think a good tempo marking to aim for is dotted crotchet equals 70. Watch a few YouTube videos and see what bowings and fingerings may be conventional for that particular piece. For example, some passages in a Brahms excerpt might be typically performed on the sul G string, or you may get a good idea for a bowing in a Strauss excerpt that needs splitting. Always think about a fingering that makes sense musically and not what is necessarily the easiest. Your teacher will be able to help with this as well, so always take the excerpt to lessons early on so you don't practice something incorrectly. In this Elgar excerpt, playing it in first position simply won't work when up to speed, and you want to avoid unnecessary string crossings, so I would suggest starting in third position with an extension up to the D. Sarah, could you just demonstrate that opening two bars in first position? It's clumsy with all those string crossings. Now try it in third position with that extension. It's much smoother and clearer. Okay, next we find a tempo that we can play the excerpt at. It may be half speed or even less, and that's okay. It's more about finding a tempo you can comfortably play it at with the correct articulation, bowing, and fingering. Write that tempo down at the top of your page so you know what your starting point is. For example, if we wanted to take this excerpt at dotted crotchet equals 70, I would set my metronome with a triplet within that 70 because the excerpt is in 3/8, and I would then take the metronome marking down to say 35 and build it up. So if this is our tempo marking dotted crotchet equals 70, I would then put it in triplets, like that, and then I would take it half speed. So let's go down to 35. Okay, Sarah, could you try at this tempo? Good. And I would start my practice at that tempo. Have a think about what this particular excerpt the panel would be looking for. Each excerpt is picked for a reason and to showcase a particular challenge on the instrument. Sarah, what would be the significance of picking this excerpt, and what do you think the panel would be looking for?
They'd be looking for stuff like clean spiccato, not rushing, and playing quietly.
Yes, exactly. These are the things you need to look out for most when preparing this excerpt. It's also a really difficult excerpt to play under nerves, and it's easy for our right arm to tense up, so this is a test of how well you can control your nerves. When trying to speed up this excerpt, I would increase my metronome marking slowly, often at one metronome marking at a time, because then you don't even notice it increasing. Like Sarah, if I take this at 40, and then if I make her play it at 41, did it feel like it was getting any faster?
No.
No, and if you do that consistently from 35 through to 70, you'll have it up at the right tempo in no time. Okay, when practicing in slower speeds, it's important to practice in different rhythms to ensure evenness and control and to make sure you don't rush. One of the hardest things with this excerpt is not to rush, and it's a common mistake most people make. Rhythm is one of the most important skills panels are looking out for, and unstable rhythm can often be one of the biggest things that knock you out of an audition. To do this, I would practice this passage in dotted rhythms, making sure you always practice the opposite dotted rhythm as well, and making sure you practice this in exactly the right part of the bow you need to be in when playing this up to speed. So let's try this at a dotted figure. We'll take it still at 40. Could we do a dotted rhythm to that excerpt? Perfect. And now try with the other way around. Good. Okay. Don't forget to also practice the correct dynamics, even in the slow tempo. For fast excerpts like this one, I often go 5 or 10 metronome markings past where I want it to be, so that under nerves in the audition, if you start too fast, you still have the capabilities to play it. And also because then the correct tempo will feel a bit easier and manageable. Eventually, when you get this up to speed and you have your fingers managed around all the notes, I find it really helpful to then play along with a recording. This helps in many ways. Firstly, you can hear the other parts around you and how it all fits in together. And secondly, it can really help with phrasing and understanding what you need to bring out. One of the most important tools when preparing for an audition is to record yourself. I would record myself regularly and then listen back and make notes as to what I wanted to improve on. Did I rush? Was anything out of tune? Was anything uneven, or did anything stick out? Did the dynamics come across enough? I would then concentrate on those sections in my next practice and then re-record myself to see if I fixed any of it. There is a risk of practicing something so much but not actually improving it, so recording yourself is an excellent tool to manage this. Finally, when you are feeling confident and with your excerpt, it's really important to go and play for a professional orchestral musician. They can offer advice on what they would be listening for in an audition and experience on playing that particular piece with renowned conductors. On top of that, it will make you nervous, and that's one of the most important things to practice before an audition. No matter how prepared you are, you will get nervous in the audition, and if you can try and be prepared for what you struggle with under pressure, you will only be an advantage for controlling it in the audition. I hope you found this helpful with your audition preparation, and remember to always practice carefully and creatively.